Hello, it's Peter Wright and Kathleen Beauvais in Ontario, Canada, with episode number 42 of the Yakking Show. This is where we talk about life, business, and more, and we bring you tips and ideas for the changing world we're living in. And it seems like today there's new changes every day. As always, we have interesting guests. We have another very interesting guest today, a gentleman that I've recently met. But first, I must welcome the co-host to the show, Kathleen. Welcome, Kathleen, and do your bit.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Peter. And we just want to say welcome to all of you. We so appreciate you tuning into our show and always appreciate your comments. So please keep them coming. And of course, if you're interested in being a guest on our show, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Peter or myself. And as Peter was mentioning, yes, we have another special guest with us today. His name is Chris Morrice from LegalShield. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for inviting me.
Chris, please go ahead and tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you came to join LegalShield.
My background is I was born and brought up in Montreal, and I came to Ontario in 1980 with the Great Migration. When the PQ were elected the first time, the company I was with, we moved 150 families to Burlington. That was a bit of a culture shock from Montreal, but we got over it. And I've lived in this area ever since. I have two kids, a son and a daughter, who both are in the area, so that's wonderful. I get to speak to them a lot. And I'm now living in Guelph. My background, business-wise, I was with Babcock & Wilcox Corporation for 26 years, and then like so many others in the 90s, I got downsized, and after that, I had just a myriad of careers. You know, you do whatever you do to keep food on the table and keep the mortgage paid. So it's been interesting. I had a really interesting time at Babcock. I was in China 3 days after Tiananmen Square, which was kind of an interesting event. It was actually my first trip to China. So now I was in Guangzhou in southern China, and ironically, they're 1,600 miles from Beijing, or 1,600 kilometers rather from Beijing. They couldn't have cared less what was happening in Beijing. There, if it didn't interfere with their business with Hong Kong, like this is 1989, they weren't interested. We couldn't believe it. You know, it was just odd. But yeah, it was. I was back to China several times after that. It's been an interesting life.
Sounds like it.
And now you're LegalShield. And tell us about LegalShield. What is that?
Well,
how did you get involved?
It's interesting. My partner got involved a number of years ago and showed me the membership, and I thought it was a heck of an idea. So I became a member, and then I was working full time, and I was sort of recommending it to people. So I thought, well, you know, I might as well become an associate because I get paid for recommending it to people, which quite honestly is a lot better. Because we all recommend things to people. You know, we find a restaurant and we recommend them.
Absolutely.
You know, LegalShield's the same way. And then I retired not long ago, and now doing it full time.
Excellent. Excellent. So,
and I love it.
I understand that there are two different features to the LegalShield service. There is the prepaid legal service, and then there's the identity theft. Can you tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about each of those?
Well, we'll start with the legal plan, and essentially it's a membership model, not unlike, for example, CAA, except instead of sending a tow truck, we hook you up with a quality law firm. But it's very much the same thing. It's a monthly subscription, and we're able to provide the services we can because of the economies of scale. We have 1.4 million members, give or take, across North America, and a third of everything they pay goes to pay the law firm. So the really unique feature of it is, I would say probably in 99% of the cases, we're probably the largest single client the law firm has.
Oh.
Plus, we set up our own system of, we control the phone lines. All the LegalShield phone lines that are going into the law firm are controlled and monitored by LegalShield. So the law firms have to meet a quality service level, or they basically get replaced.
Mm-hmm.
So the unique feature is typically if you phone a lawyer, you might get an answer back at whatever the convenience of the lawyer is.
Mhm.
Well, with LegalShield, they're mandated to phone you back within 4 to 8 business hours. So you're never kind of hanging on the phone. The other thing is that wills and powers of attorney are part of the program. You can review those daily. You get phone calls and documents. We run the whole thing from an app, which is kind of a unique feature. And that happened a few years ago when the new CEO that took over came over from Microsoft. And in the blink of an eye, we went from paper apps to digital platforms and running the whole business from your phone. It's amazing. It truly is amazing. The ID Shield came almost by osmosis because we partnered at that time. We partnered with a company that had identity theft issues, and we're discovering that with all their clients, there was a legal component that came along as part of it. And the result of that was it was just a marriage. And now we provide the identity theft protection program. And essentially what it is they monitor everything. You go online, you give them any number associated with you, of which we have when I filled in my numbers, I'm thinking, good Lord, there's an awful lot of numbers that are associated with just me. And I'm thinking, with everybody else that's out there, that's a heck of a lot of data floating around.
Mhm.
And what happens is that we monitor all those numbers, and in the dark web as well, which is apparently not a very nice place.
Right.
I was actually at a presentation. They were talking about the dark web itself, and the gentleman that was part of the monitoring team. He says the stuff you find on there is just absolutely scary.
I bet.
And the worst part is that even if you could figure out how to get on it, and apparently it's not easy, the police are monitoring it as well. So if you go there to try to fix yourself, they're going to think you're doing something else. So the way we work is that essentially the monitoring is done 24/7, and if your number popped up somewhere that they don't think it should, you get an alert, and they contact you and you say, no, that wasn't me. And then you give them a limited power of attorney and they fix you. And that is really unique in the industry. There's a lot of people that will monitor it, and then once there's a problem, they hand you a big binder and said, here, fix that. And our numbers are showing possibly up to 600 hours to replace a major breach situation. And that's 600 hours during the day, like 9 to 5 hours, because all the people you contact are working 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're now trying to find 600 hours in your normal day to fix something that you didn't cause, even if you knew how to fix it. And that's the other thing. I mean, I have friends that are involved here with LegalShield that are ex-policemen, one of whom was on the fraud squad. And he said, frankly, I have no idea where to look. And more importantly, I don't know when to stop looking.
Right.
Because you don't know how far it extends. And that's another unique feature is we continue to monitor you. And it's kind of a fact that once your identity has proven successfully to be able to get someplace else, it goes up in value. So your basic information, say, sells for $50. Well, if it's used and it worked, the price on your information now goes up. So your information is now worth $100 or $200. And that means that more people are going to try to use it. And it just goes and goes and goes. So it's just a crazy situation. And frankly, I mean, I've played with computers since they had punch cards. And anybody that thinks their information is not out there, sadly mistaken, unfortunately. It is all out there. And the best you can do is protect yourself. And then if it all hits the fan, have somebody that can put it back together for you. And that's LegalShield.
Now, in terms of the legal advice, is there any restrictions on the types of legal advice that that you can seek out, or is it a number of hours that you get with a lawyer? Doesn't matter what the topic is.
Basically, you get an unlimited number of consultations.
Right.
So if I have to phone them 10 times a day for 10 different issues, I phone them 10 times a day. They'll review documents and such up to 15 pages. A unique feature that we've just added, LegalShield started in the US and was in Canada for about 20 odd years. And then last October, we expanded to all of Canada because previously it had only been in 4 provinces. And when they did that, they equalized the US and Canadian plans to a large extent. So now we have features like when I have my membership, I start out with a bank of 60 hours of trial defense. So if I'm sued, I have 60 hours of legal time, and that continues for 5 years. So at the end of 5 years, I have 300 hours. So if somebody wants to come and sue me, I say, okay, I've already paid for 300 hours of my lawyer's time. What do you got? And it's surprising when people realize that, they go, oh. And that's just, again, as part of the service. They will do, their only thing that has a slight restriction is there is a time limit. There's a 90-day waiting period for uncontested adoptions and child divorce, things like that. Anything uncontested, they will look after it, but there is a 90-day waiting period before that kicks in. Probably one of the most important features that we have on our phone is we laughingly refer to as the red button. And the red button is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week emergency button. So if you're in an accident and you think somebody's hurt, the police pull you over for something you're not sure of, CRA or child custody turns up at your door because the neighbors have complained about your kids making noise or something, all of those things, you can hit the button within minutes. You have a lawyer on the phone. And I know several circumstances where, well, I know one in particular. There was a young man, and he was on a Thanksgiving weekend. He was involved in a multi-car accident. He was the only young guy. Everybody pointed at him, saying he was at fault. But he was the young guy. It must have been his fault. By the time the police got to him, he had the law firm on the phone. And he'd explained everything to the law firm, and the lawyer said, "Can I talk to the officer?" So the officer came to the door. He handed the officer his phone. The first thing the officer said is, "It's 2:30 on Thanksgiving afternoon. Who are you that there's a lawyer on the end of this line?"
Yeah.
And basically the lawyer explained it the way the young man had explained it to him, and the cop said, "All right, sounds reasonable." Handed him back his phone, says, "Have a nice afternoon. You can go."
Yeah.
Now, would that have happened otherwise? Maybe not.
Maybe
not.
not.
You never know. But because he had the law firm in his pocket, he could phone them.
Right.
That's right.
So I think for anybody, my kids are grown. Now they have to have their own plans. But if I had teenage drivers, let me tell you, because we cover children that living at home up to the age of 26. So if I had teenage drivers, I don't think I'd be without this thing.
That's right.
Frankly.
Yeah, sounds good. Interesting. Going back, I was going to ask you how big a risk is identity theft. I think you've answered that pretty well. I was quite concerned with what you were saying about identity theft there.
Did you see that CRA, who's supposed to be really secure?
Yes.
Well, they admit to losing 5,500 accounts, but the indications are there may be as many as 11,000 accounts that are compromised.
Wow.
And these are the guys that have all of our stuff, and they're supposed to keep it safe. It's the government. Yeah.
That's a worry. Yeah, you've answered that one well. It's obviously a real problem nowadays. Going back a bit in history, the predecessor to LegalShield was Prepaid Legal. And I know that I can remember at times there was a bit of controversy and there was a few lawsuits. Was that to do with the service or because it was the way it was sold, multi-level marketing?
Most of them, from my understanding anyways, a lot of it had to do with the fact that it was such a new model with the legal profession.
Right.
And they were publicly traded. So a lot of it had to do with reporting of their for SEC things and just different ways that things were being reported that generated a lot of controversy and lawsuits, and they've all been dealt with
Sure.
many years ago. But yeah, there was a couple of even class action suits. There was one in Alabama that was dismissed because, like, well, yeah, but and part of that was the fact that they proved in court it was not a pyramid scheme.
Sure.
LegalShield actually proved in court it isn't. I mean, you have to think about it. How illegal can it be when there are 4,600 lawyers involved?
That's right. Well, yeah, that might beg the question.
Well, except that there are 4,600 of them. If there were two lawyers, I would say, but 4,600 of them, with law firms all over North America, you got to look at it and think, I kind of think that they're not. And the law firms we have, I mean, for example, in Ontario, our law firm is Mills and Mills.
Right.
And it's the oldest family-run law firm in Canada.
Is that right?
Been around for over 140 years now.
Out of Toronto?
Yeah. And they actually have like the top 4 or 5. Every time I look, they have another floor, but it's at St. Clair West. So, I mean, this is not your mom and pop end of the strip mall kind of law firms, and that's indicative of all the law firms that we're involved with.
So, if you're dealing with a prepaid lawyer through this service and find yourself in a situation where you would actually need more legal aid or more legal service, would your hours then terminate with the prepaid and then you would go and find yourself another lawyer, or does the information get shared with?
No, basically the way the system would work is someone had to go to court with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. About 80% of what we do is covered, no charge by the membership. But there are circumstances where, of necessity, you have to go to court. And at that point, you get a discount. You get a 25% discount on the fees. The fees are published by the Law Society. They're all available for anybody to realize. But the same lawyer would carry it through.
Okay.
But
it would be handled by a LegalShield lawyer, except in the event of if you want to have it handled locally. Okay. And then we have a system of referral lawyers.
Okay.
For local situations, but all of them in turn are our law firm, the LegalShield law firm is responsible in terms of vetting them.
Okay.
So it's not like you're going through the phone book. They give you the law firm, and if you have a problem with that law firm, then LegalShield has a whole department in Ada, Oklahoma, which is the head office, that's strictly there to make sure the law firms, both ours and the referral firms, are doing what they're expected to do. Okay. And they can get. And if you think about it, as the law firm, for example, in Ontario, I think it's something like 100,000 members. I'm not exactly sure of how many members, but let's say 100,000 members, and they're paying $25 a month, of which $8 a month goes to the law firm. So that's $800,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
I have to think that law firm is going to be really careful about keeping that retainer, because it's just like I mean, again, it works just like CAA.
Right.
In any one day, not everybody that's a CAA member needs a tow truck.
Right.
Similarly, for the law firm, they're getting this money, but not, all 100,000 members, for example, don't try to use it at the same day. So there's a lot of days where maybe they deal with a couple of hundred people. but they're getting paid for this other big bunch of people. That is a lot of income for the law firm. So they're
Sure.
very, very, very careful to provide service.
I'm sure they are. Quick one for you, Chris. This applies to both civil and criminal legal requirements, right?
The membership is basically dealing with civil stuff.
Okay.
General day-to-day, you know, fight with your neighbor or something like. The other stuff can be handled, but typically it's on the discounted basis.
Okay.
Because it can't be dealt with. It has to be dealt with in court. So the lawyer has to physically go to court with you, but it could certainly be handled on the discounted basis.
Okay. Okay. We get sorry.
Except traffic tickets. I forgot to mention.
Yeah, because you mentioned the young guy earlier on. So traffic tickets would come.
Well, and to tell you a really interesting feature, our app has a button. So if you get a moving violation, you take a picture and you press the magic button and the picture is sent to the law firm. And then they call you back and say, okay, if you plead this, or, oh, the officer forgot to mention this, you know, this ticket's not valid, or whatever. They tell you how to plead the ticket down.
Right.
And typically you're able to get some relief from it. Not necessarily in points. A lot of the points, especially in Ontario, my partner got one for cell phone, and it was sitting on her lap, and they were on a bridge overlooking the road, and they looked down, and the cell phone was on her lap, and because it was on her lap, not secured in the dashboard or some other way, she got a ticket for use of the cell phone.
Wow.
Now she was on hands-free. She wasn't like she was holding it or anything, but because it was on her lap.
Yeah.
And with advice from the law firm, they knocked the fine down to about $250, but there was nothing they could do about the points because the points are mandated. They're part of as soon as the ticket is written, the points are done. But she still, I mean, she got great advice, and when she went into court, she was relaxed and knew exactly what to say to the judge.
Sure. We're getting towards the end of our time. Chris, if people want to contact you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
My website is camorris.wearelegalshield.ca.
Okay.
And that's got all the information on it, the plans and links to. So we also provide small biz plans, so there's links to the small business plans as well. And
good. And I think I saw in there that you also do wills, and you help people with wills and power of attorney too.
Wills and powers of attorney are actually part of your membership. So there's a will questionnaire, which you can actually start with your app on the phone. Although I'm afraid that I have to go to paper because I find that phone just too tiny to write on. But and you literally can start the thing on your phone. You can do it while it's a really unique feature of it too, is that you can actually be standing in a grocery line and tapping in different notes, and it remembers it all. So
useful.
So you can keep basically filling in the questionnaire over a couple of days if you want to.
Right.
It's kind of fun. One of the guys I know has a funny story about saying and wine and filling in his will questionnaire as he was walking through the line. But yeah,
that's really good. We're just about there. So Chris, thanks very much for being on the show. I'm going to hand over to Kathleen. She does her little bit at the end. So over to you, Kathleen.
Thank you so much, Peter. And thank you, Chris, for joining us today. We really appreciate your time, and thank all of you for joining us as well. Please keep your comments coming, and we so appreciate you. And once again, if you're interested in becoming a guest on our show, please feel free to reach out to either Peter or myself, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.